In 1993, an 8-year-old kid who played for the under-11 Liverpool schoolboy squad would finish the season with 72 goals scored, smashing the all-time record at that stage. This record wouldn't be broken until 2010. From this moment on, that kid would make it his life's mission to score goals. His name was Wayne Rooney. As he turned 9 years old, an Everton scout would find him training for the Couple House Boys Club. He was so impressed he would go on to talk to Rooney's parents and schedule a visit to Everton's training grounds. It later realized that Liverpool had also scheduled a meeting, so it asked Rooney's family to come over earlier. As Rooney got to the training grounds, the staff were prepared to calm him down and make him feel safe, as most kids get nervous in this sort of situation. But Rooney would come onto the grounds unbothered, as if this was already his day-to-day life. He would eventually go on and sign a contract, still seeming barely bothered by what happened as he played with the office chair. This bond with his boyhood club would last, as after he turned 16, he would have his professional debut against Tottenham, and right on that first game he would get an assist, despite famously being picked on by Tottenham fans who chanted "Who are ya?" whenever he touched the ball. Soon, it finally scored for Everton, becoming the club's youngest ever goal scorer. Sometime in between all these events, he'd get a call from the Republic of Ireland national team. He would reject it because, as he explained it himself, he considered himself English through and through. Shortly before turning 17, he would also score a last-minute goal against Arsenal, which would end their 30-game unbeaten run and would make him the youngest ever Premier League goal scorer. He would win BBC's Young Sportsperson of the Year award and would sign a £14,000 a week contract with Everton. After one more season with the club, he would request to be made available for transfer, despite Everton proposing a £50,000 a week contract to him. That summer, he would participate in his first tournament for England, the 2004 Euros, as he'd become a regular on the national team during the qualifying rounds. It scored twice against Switzerland, becoming the youngest ever player to score in the Euros. It suffered an injury in the quarter-finals match as England were knocked out by host nation Portugal on penalties. His performances in the tournament were enough to get him a spot on the UEFA team of the tournament. Back in England, he would eventually pick Manchester United to be his next destination. The club would pay a fee of £26 million, making him the most expensive teenager of all time, which is even more impressive as Manchester United just the previous season had beaten the English record for the most expensive teenager as they signed Portuguese star Cristiano Ronaldo for £12 million. They say great players don't wait around to prove their skills, and Rooney would show himself to be a great player. He debuted for the Red Devils in a Champions League match against Fenerbahce. Ryan Giggs would make it 1-0 in the first minutes of the match, then Rooney would step up and score twice in quick succession. The first, a magnificent left-footed strike. The second, a right-footed strike from right outside the box, and as his debut seemed to be impossible to beat, he'd step up to take a free kick which would go top bins, leaving the keeper with no chance. He'd finish off the game by assisting David Beckham to top off his magic debut that will make him the youngest ever player to get a hat-trick in the Champions League. His first season would not be on the same level as his debut, considering that Manchester United would be knocked out of every competition and end up third in the league. Individually, it proved his brilliance, as he managed to be Manchester United's league top scorer despite being a teenager in a team with gigantic talents, such as Van Nistelrooy, Diego Forlán, Ryan Giggs, and even a young Cristiano Ronaldo. His contribution would be massive for the team, as Van Nistelrooy, the team's main striker, would settle for an atrocious record of just 3 non-penalty league goals that season. It finished the year by winning PFA Young Player of the Year. His second season at the club would be slightly better, as they managed to take home the League Cup and to be runners-up in the Premier League. Due to Van Nistelrooy going back to good form, this time he wouldn't manage to be the team's top scorer. In April, he would be fouled by Paulo Ferreira in a game against Chelsea and would suffer a metatarsal injury. This had the potential to ruin his aspiration to participate in the World Cup. He'd enter specialized treatment as he tried his hardest to get fit. Eventually, he managed to start for England, but it would be clear he wasn't 100% injury-free, as he went the entire tournament without scoring. England would be knocked out once again by Portugal in the quarter-finals. This game would become notorious for Rooney being sent off, as during a duel with Ricardo Carvalho he would step on his groin after knocking him onto the ground. To further complicate this moment, his Manchester United teammate Cristiano Ronaldo would be seen amongst his fellow countrymen yelling at the referee to send off Rooney, who would not take this betrayal lightly and would go on to push him. Later, Ronaldo would be seen winking at the coach, which infuriated British media. Rooney would calm the waters down by telling the press that despite feeling disappointed by Cristiano's actions, he understood that at that moment they weren't teammates. As the next club season started, he'd go on a dry streak lasting 10 games before he broke it by scoring a hat-trick against Bolton. This season, despite the events that took place in the World Cup, Rooney and Ronaldo would cement themselves as the most feared duo in the Premier League, as they topped the goal-scoring charts with a total of 31 league goals between the two, eventually leading Manchester United to the Premier League title. In the Champions League, they would go all the way to the semi-finals, where they defeat AC Milan 3-2, at home with 2 goals from Rooney and another by Ronaldo. The second leg at San Siro would be a disaster though, getting a 3-0 defeat which would lead them out of the Champions League. The next season would be a big one. Despite his opening day injury which left him out for 6 weeks, he'd come back as he and Cristiano would join forces with new signing Carlos Tevez to form one of the most feared front three football has ever seen. Sadly, the first half of the season would be plagued by injuries, as he'd get injured once again in a training session, missing 2 more weeks. In the second half, the team would go all in as they managed to finish first in the league again, and they'd go all the way to the final of the Champions League after defeating Barcelona in the semi-finals. There, they take part in the first ever final between 2 English clubs as they had to face Chelsea. In this match, Ronaldo would open the score sheet with a leaping header, to which Lampard would equalize. The game would go into extra time and Rooney would be subbed off. In the end, it was decided on penalties. Ronaldo would miss his, but Chelsea captain John Terry would slip and miss as well. As the shootout went into sudden death, Van der Sar would save Anelka's shot and Manchester United would be champions of Europe. Despite this massive achievement, the spotlight would be set on Cristiano Ronaldo, who would be top scorer of the tournament with twice as many goals as Rooney, who only managed 4. That summer, he'd watched every minute of Euro 2008 from home as England did not qualify. The 2008-2009 season would start off on the wrong foot as Manchester United would fail to win the European Super Cup against Zenit. They bounced back by winning the Club World Cup. Rooney would win the tournament's Golden Ball as he got 3 goals in the last 2 matches. The season would go on very smoothly otherwise, as they'd win the League Cup and comfortably win the Premier League for the 3rd time in a row. Rooney would pair up with Cristiano Ronaldo once again as the duo managed 30 league goals combined. Internationally, they once again make it to the Champions League final after destroying Arsenal in a 4-1 victory in the semi-finals. They only needed a victory against Barcelona in order to win the Champions League for the 2nd time in a row. Unfortunately, the game would start off in the worst way possible, as Samuel Eto'o would score right on the 10th minute of the match. This would be made worse as 22-year-old Messi would double Barcelona's lead. This would be a poor way to watch this legendary duo be separated, as that summer Cristiano would leave for Real Madrid. This would mean a total change on Rooney's playstyle, as he'd take on a more central role in the team's attack, taking on the goal-scoring role he shared with Ronaldo all by himself. This would lead him to beat most of his goal-scoring records, as he'd get 24 league goals and 34 across all competitions. With 6 matches left to play in the Premier League, Manchester United was 3 points ahead of 2nd place Chelsea, who they would play next. This game would not go their way, as Rooney would suffer an injury in their first match against Bayern Munich for the Champions League quarter-finals, and they would lose 2-1. This would be aggravated as they would draw their next game against Blackburn Rovers and go to 2nd place with just 1 point less than Chelsea. They would manage to win every game that was left, but it wouldn't be enough to get back to 1st place. The team's season would suffer further ruin as they would also lose the 2nd leg of their Champions League matchup with Bayern Munich, finishing 4-4 on aggregate, but being knocked out regardless due to away goal difference. Despite ending the season with the League Cup as his only title, Rooney would win PFA Player of the Year. This would lead Rooney to captaining the national team for the first time in a preparation friendly against Brazil. It'd take the team to the World Cup, where they wouldn't last long before being knocked out in the round of 16 by Germany, as Rooney went the whole tournament without scoring. The next season would start with a major disruption between the club and the player, which got to the point of Sir Alex Ferguson announcing Rooney's intentions of leaving the club to the press, as the player was not happy with being dropped to the bench, which Ferguson said to be simply a consequence of his previous injuries. This would be met with shock by the fans, but to their benefit, Rooney would go back on what he had stated and would end up signing a contract extension. This situation would ruin the first half of the season, as his first goal from open play would come in January. As it seemed like this season would be remembered as Rooney's most unremarkable to date, he decided to do this. Well, there isn't much left to be said about this goal. Rooney called it the best goal of his career. Sir Alex said it was the best strike he ever witnessed at Old Trafford. It would be nominated to the Puskas Award, but it would lose to Neymar's solo goal against Flamengo. Despite Rooney's poor season, they'd managed to win the league, but this wouldn't be their most notorious accomplishment this season, as they would once again manage to make their way into a Champions League final. Sadly, they would once again get thrashed by Barcelona. Not like anyone could blame them, as Barcelona had one of the strongest teams the world had ever seen, with players like Javi Hernandez, Iniesta, David Villa, Mascherano, Dani Alves, Piqué, Puyol, and the one and only Lionel Messi. They were simply unstoppable. The next season would be remarkable in individual terms, being one of his highest scoring seasons at 34 goals. It also became the highest Champions League goal scorer born in England, surpassing fellow Manchester United legend Paul Scholes, and the fourth ever player to score consecutive hat-tricks in the Premier League, scoring 3 against both Arsenal and Bolton. As they dropped out of the Champions League in the group stage, they fully focused on the league title. The race for it would come down to the last game of the season. Manchester City and Manchester United came onto it with the same amount of points, with goal advantage towards City. Man United would be the first to score, by no other than Rooney himself. Zabaleta would score for City later. Soon, after break, Old Trafford would be informed that Cisse had just scored to tie the match at the Etihad Stadium. Later, Queen Park Rangers would have one of their players sent off, but in an odd outcome they would score by Jamie Mackie and lead against City. The 90 minutes would arrive without any change to the score.
Influence gained more than, help the team with more trophies.
Wayne had developed into one of the world's leading players, and ahead of the new season he took on a new number. Confirmation that he was now the perfect 10.
Yeah, I mean he's a top player, he's built a reputation for himself, and that carries a lot of weight before the game even started a lot of the time. But then when he's out there, he's always enthusiastic, he always works hard before and after, and all the other stuff's a bonus in terms of the quality that he's got in his play.
Carrick, Nani, slipped in, Wayne Rooney! Oh yeah! Oh yeah! Wayne Rooney's first goal of the season is a beauty, and it's come at a wonderful time for Manchester United. They lead Roma with 20 minutes to go.
Scholes, Ronaldo, time for the tricks. Simpson, queuing up for the cross. He deserved it. So the United.
With decline, perhaps initially due to the signing of Robin van Persie, Rooney would play less games and would never break the 20 goals in a season barrier again. With the arrival of David Moyes, changes to the club's board, and Rooney's unavoidable aging, it would never be the same. By Euro 2016, it became England's all-time top scorer, but it once again be knocked out in their first knockout stage match by no other than Iceland. The country with a population of only 360,000 would stun the continent, as they were only defeated by France, would go all the way to the final. Rooney would eventually become Manchester United's highest ever goal scorer, being given his award by Bobby Charlton himself, the previous record holder. His final season would be the most remarkable of the last few, as his final appearance would be in the Europa League final, as he'd come off the bench after 90 minutes had been played and United were leading by 2. As he entered the pitch, he'd be met with an ovation by the fans. The King of Old Trafford had passed on his crown. He would eventually leave for his childhood club Everton, where he played for one season, becoming the second player to get 200 Premier League goals and the third highest assist provider of all time. Rooney would eventually be called up to the 2018 World Cup, but he would announce his retirement by rejecting that proposal. This seemed to be the end of his English career, as he left for the United States, where he'd played 2 seasons for DC United, making it to the playoffs once and winning the Most Valuable Player of the Year award, as well as scoring some notorious goals. In a seriously unexpected turn, this wouldn't be the end of his career, as he'd returned to England to play for Derby County as a player coach. He's been there to this very day. Rooney went from teenage prodigy to full-blown superstar, formed some of the best attacking partnerships the world has seen, without ever leaving Manchester United for another top-flight club. Wayne Rooney is the embodiment of Manchester United, a true Red Devil. This should lead us to our ranking system. As a striker, Rooney should be judged for his ability to finish. In this subject, he will get a 9 out of 10, almost perfect, as he only lacks the superb heading ability expected from a legendary striker. His positioning should get him an 8 out of 10, as he's always displayed a strong awareness of the game despite it never being his main attribute. For speed and physicality, he gets an 8 out of 10, since any player who can manage to keep up with Cristiano Ronaldo in a counter-attack has to have some seriously quick feet. 2 points deducted, as despite being strong on ground duels, his height prevents him from being competitive in certain situations. The fourth attribute is first touch and ball control. In this, he gets an 8 out of 10, as he's shown to be a very gifted player. For the last technical attribute, mentality, Rooney has been known for being a very low-profile type of person. Regardless, he is also notorious for managing to get in trouble on the pitch more than usual, so he'll get a 7 out of 10. When it comes to his legacy, we'll judge his consistency. He surely wasn't the most consistent. His form would fluctuate a lot, going on dry streaks, getting injured relatively frequently, which gets him a 5 out of 10. Secondly, flair. He never really was one for useless tricks and skills, but he surely could score some stunners, so he'll get a 6 out of 10. Next, we consider his trophy cabinet, which clearly isn't the most diverse, as he never played in another major European league or won an international trophy with England, but he does have a Champions League and an Europa League to his name, as well as 5 Premier Leagues, which isn't normal at all. For that, he gets a 6 out of 10. In terms of his longevity, he spent 13 years at Manchester United, which is impressive, but not the most overwhelming stat. He gets an 8 out of 10. Lastly, the icon factor. He is an English icon, a late 2000s icon. His duel with Ronaldo gave us some of the most iconic moments in the Premier League, but Ronaldo would frequently outshine him, and he was frequently accused of not performing for England. He manages 7 out of 10. This totals out to 72. Placing him in between the other 2 players we judged, Figo with 74 and Zlatan Ibrahimovic with 69, which seems fair as Figo was a more gifted and satisfying player to watch while maintaining an impressive resume, while Ibra attracted people's attention more easily but failed to develop his resume. Personally, Rooney was one of my favorite childhood players. I will never forget his on-field relationship with Ronaldo. Those times made that Manchester United one of my favorite teams of all time. Thanks for everything, Wayne Rooney. The day you retire will be a sad day for every football fan. So, this is about it. The end of the 3rd episode. I hope you enjoyed it once again. I'll be sure to bring you many more. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment if you think I misjudged Wayne Rooney in any aspect. This is it. See you next time.